जय गुरुदेव मारिया जी। भावातीत ध्यान कर लो, जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। भावातीत ध्यान कर लो, जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। अनुभव कर लो, अनुभव कर लो, जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। 20 मिनट बस ध्यान कर लो, जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। सुबह शाम बस ध्यान कर लो, जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। आसन प्राणायाम कर लो, जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। अनुभव कर लो, अनुभव कर लो, जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। भावातीत ध्यान कर लो। सबकी आत्मा शांति का सागर है, सबकी आत्मा आनंद का सागर है। सबकी आत्मा शांति का सागर है। सबकी आत्मा ज्ञान का सागर है। सबकी आत्मा ज्ञान का सागर है। सबकी आत्मा शक्ति का सागर है। सागर है, सागर है। अनुभव कर लो, अनुभव कर लो, जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। 20 मिनट बस ध्यान कर लो, जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। सुबह शाम बस ध्यान कर लो, जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। आसन प्राणायाम कर लो, जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। भावातीत ध्यान कर लो, जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। अनुभव कर लो, अनुभव कर लो, जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। भावातीत ध्यान कर लो।
गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। नारायणं पद्मभवं वसिष्ठं शक्तिं च तत्पुत्रपराशरं च व्यासं सुखं गौडपदं महान्तं गोविन्दयोगीन्द्रमथास्य शिष्यं श्रीशङ्कराचार्यमथास्य पद्मपादं च हस्तामलकं च शिष्यं तं त्रोटकं वार्तिककारमन्यान् अस्मद्गुरुं सन्ततमानतोऽस्मि। श्रुति स्मृति पुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयम् नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं वादरायणम् सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः यद्वारे निखिलानि लिम्पपरिषत्
Hemaji, you are muted. Hemaji, you are muted. Hemaji, you are muted.
Okay. Swagatam. Welcome to our Maharishi Gita Satsang on Chapter 8, Akshara Parabrahma Yoga. We will begin with few minutes of group meditation, and then we don't have Pandit Manish today. Jayashri, are you able to recite after group meditation? Unmute, please.
Jai Gurudev Hemaji. Sorry, I could not pick up the phone. Okay, I'll recite Hemaji.
Okay, good. Okay, let's close eyes and do a few minutes of transcendental meditation.
Hello, Jai Gurudev ತುಷಾರ್ ನಂದು ಲ್ಯಾಪ್ಟಾಪ್ ಏನ್ ಒತ್ತದ್ನೋ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಝೂಮ್ ಆನ್ಲೈನ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದೆ. ಅದು
Jai Gurudev. Jai Gurudev. Now we will have recitation of Akshara Parabrahma Yoga. Go ahead, please. Jai Shri, go ahead.
Jai Gurudev Hemaji. 1 minute, my mobile has been hanged. It's hanging. So I'm trying some other mobile. Yeah. Yes, Hemaji. अथ अष्टमोऽध्यायः अक्षरपरब्रह्मयोगः। अर्जुन उवाच किं तद्ब्रह्म किमध्यात्मम् किं कर्म पुरुषोत्तम अधिभूतं च किं प्रोक्तम् अधिदैवं किमुच्यते अधियज्ञः कथं कोत्र देहेऽस्मिन् मधुसूदन प्रयाणकाले च कथं ज्ञेयोऽसि नियतात्मभिः। श्रीभगवानुवाच अक्षरं ब्रह्म परमं स्वभावोऽध्यात्ममुच्यते भूतभावोद्भवकरो विसर्गः कर्म संज्ञितः अधिभूतं क्षरो भावः पुरुषश्चाधिदैवतम् अधियज्ञोऽहमेवात्र देहे देहभृतां वर अन्तकाले च मामेव स्मरन् मुक्त्वा कलेवरम् यः प्रयाति समद्भावम् याति नास्त्यत्र संशयः यं यं वापि स्मरन् भावम् त्यजत्यन्ते कलेवरम् तं तमेवैति कौन्तेय सदा तद्भावभावितः तस्मात् सर्वेषु कालेषु मामनुस्मरयुध्य च मय्यर्पितमनो बुद्धिः मामे वैष्यस्य संशयम् अभ्यासयोगयुक्तेन चेतसा नान्यगामिना परमं पुरुषं दिव्यं याति पार्थानुचिन्तयन् कविं पुराणम् अनुशासितारम् अणोरणीयान् समनुस्मरेद्यः सर्वस्य धातारमचिन्त्य रूपम् आदित्यवर्णं तमसः परस्तात् प्रयाणकाले मनसाचलेन भक्त्या युक्तो योगबलेन चैव भ्रुवोर्मध्ये प्राणमावेश्य सम्यक् सतं परं पुरुषमुपैति दिव्यम् यदक्षरं वेदविदो वदन्ति विशन्ति यद्यतयो वीतरागाः यदिच्छन्तो ब्रह्मचर्यं चरन्ति तत्ते पदं संग्रहेण प्रवक्ष्ये सर्वद्वाराणि संयम्य मनोहृदि निरुध्य च मूर्ध्याधायात्मनः प्राणं आस्थितो योगधारणाम् ओमित्येकाक्षरं ब्रह्म व्याहरन् मामनुस्मरन् यः प्रयाति त्यजन् देहं स याति परमां गतिम् अनन्यचेताः सततं यो मां स्मरति नित्यशः तस्याहं सुलभः पार्थ नित्ययुक्तस्य योगिनः मामुपेत्य पुनर्जन्म दुःखालयमशाश्वतम् नाप्नुवन्ति महात्मानः संसिद्धिं परमां गताः आब्रह्मभुवनाल्लोकाः पुनरावर्तिनोऽर्जुन मामुपेत्य तु कौन्तेय पुनर्जन्म न विद्यते सहस्रयुगपर्यन्तम् अहर्यद्ब्रह्मणो विदुः रात्रिं युगसहस्रान्ताम् तेहोरात्रविदो जनाः अव्यक्ताद्व्यक्तयः सर्वाः प्रभवन्त्यहरागमे रात्र्यागमे प्रलीयन्ते तत्रैवाव्यक्तसंज्ञके भूतग्रामः स एवायं भूत्वा भूत्वा प्रलीयते रात्र्यागमे वशः पार्थ प्रभवत्यहरागमे परस्तस्मात्तु भावोऽन्यो अव्यक्तो व्यक्तात् सनातनः यस्य सर्वेषु भूतेषु नश्यत्सु न विनश्यस्ति अव्यक्तोऽक्षर इत्युक्तः तमाहुः परमां गतिम् यं प्राप्य न निवर्तन्ते तद्धाम परमं मम पुरुषः स परः पार्थ भक्त्या लभ्यस्त्वनन्यया यस्यान्तस्थानि भूतानि येन सर्वमिदं ततम् यत्र काले त्वनावृत्तिम् आवृत्तिं चैव योगिनः प्रयाता यान्ति तं कालं वक्ष्यामि भरतर्षभ अग्निर्ज्योतिरः शुक्लः षण्मासा उत्तरायणम् तत्र प्रयाता गच्छन्ति ब्रह्म ब्रह्मविदो जनाः धूमो रात्रिस्तथा कृष्णः षण्मासा दक्षिणायनम् तत्र चान्द्रमसं ज्योतिः योगी प्राप्य निवर्तते शुक्लकृष्णे गतिह्येते जगतः शाश्वते मते एकया यात्यनावृत्तिम् अन्यया वर्तते पुनः नैते श्रुति पार्थ जानन् योगी मुह्यति कश्चन तस्मात् सर्वेषु कालेषु योगयुक्तो भवार्जुन वेदेषु यज्ञेषु तपस्सु चैव दानेषु यत्पुण्यफलं प्रदिष्टम् अत्येति तत्सर्वमिदं विदित्वा योगी परं स्थानमुपैति चाद्यम् तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे अक्षरपरब्रह्मयोगो नाम अष्टमोऽध्यायः। जय गुरुदेव।
Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Welcome to all again. Today we will be studying, continuing our study from yesterday, continue with the shloka number 10. But before that, I would like to recap what we have studied yesterday briefly. We didn't have time to cover the last couple of shlokas, so last shloka, and I will briefly do that. So, Sri Krishna is saying, remember me and fight. And we have learned that this doesn't mean that one should remember God on the superficial thinking level while engaging in activity. The way to do it is by anusmara, means holding God deep in the mind. That way, remembrance of God penetrates through all levels of consciousness. That is when we do our meditation. And it enables the mind to arrive at the source of thought. And one arrives at transcendent divine Purusha. And this practice of anusmara is the basis of God realization. Then we studied the nature of Purusha. Purusha is omniscient. In Sanskrit, it is Kavi, that is all-knowing. It is ancient, Purana. It is older than the oldest because it is at the subtlest plane of creation. Creation keeps on changing all the time. That is in the relative. But this Purusha is the immutable, that is unchanging foundation of creation. And because it is always going, it is always there. So it is the oldest. It is Purana, old. And Purusha is the ruler, Anushasitaram. And it is the home of all the laws of nature, and it is responsible for maintenance and evolution. Purusha is smaller than the smallest atom of the atom, Anoraniyan. We reach this state when we experience the finest level of thought in transcendental meditation. And Purusha is sustainer of all, Sarvasya Dhataram. It is the basis of creation. And its form is inconceivable, Achintya Rupa, because it is transcendental. It is beyond the senses. That is why we cannot see it with the naked eye. And Purusha is not formless. It is the subtlest state of manifestation, the first sprouting of seed of absolute being. So the fact that the form is inconceivable, that tells us that there is a form, but it is inconceivable. That is the way we understand it. And Purusha is self-effulgent like the sun, Aditya Varnam. The field of Purusha, it glows. Here in this state, Purusha is in its purest of relativity. It is in the purest form. And because there is no trace of gross manifestation, there is no trace of relativity. That is why Purusha in this state shines by itself. And Purusha is beyond darkness. Tamasa parastat. Purusha knows no darkness of ignorance. It gives light of life to all. Here, a hidden secret is given. And what is that? The secret is that Purusha is there all the time, eternal, and all the techniques we do, they help us to remove the darkness, the coverings, the stress. And then the self-effulgent sun shines all by itself. The sun is there. The clouds are coming in the way. When the clouds are there, we cannot see the sun. So what we do with all the techniques that Maharishi had given us, all the technologies of consciousness, they help us with purifying our mind and gross body. For this, most important are, number one, transcendental meditation, which we all are doing. And then next most important is Vishnu Sahasranama. You all know the value of the Vedic recitation and the Vedic vibrations. Then last week, I put the link for Vedic chanting of Mahanarayana Upanishad. This Upanishad helps with purification of subtle body, Sukshma and Karana Deha, mind and intellect. So the impurities that are there in the intellect, in the Sukshma and Karana Deha, they are a little bit deeper and cannot be removed by just transcendental meditation. And I would like to say a few words about the impurities in the intellect, in the Sukshma Deha and Karana Deha. So there are three types of impurities. Mala. And these are at a very deep level. These are called as Anava Mala, Mayika Mala, and Karmika Mala. And there are Vedic recitations for purifying these, especially the Mahanarayana Upanishad that I just mentioned. They are obstacles on the spiritual path, like any other impurity. So these malas, impurities, are subtle and they are pervasive, and they affect all aspects of our being on the physical, mental, and spiritual level. These malas are described in the Shiva Sutras and the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra. So let us see what these three types of impurities are. One is Anava Mala. It is the sense of individuality or ego. It is the mala of individuality or the mala of finitude. So this impurity, this belief, it is the belief that we are separate from the universe and the divine. That is the impurity. Anava Mala causes us to become attached to our thoughts, emotions, experiences, and it prevents us from experiencing our true nature, Brahman. So it's an obstacle kind of thing. So that is Anava Mala. That is Mala of individuality, ego. You know how difficult it is to get rid of ego. Really hard. The next impurity is Mayika Mala. Mala, Maya. Impurity of Maya. Maya of illusion. Mala of illusion. Mala, impurity of duality. This impurity causes the mind to create dualistic concepts. It's in the duality. And then, you're caught up in duality. duality is also difficult to get over. And that is about Mayika Mala. The third impurity is Karmika Mala. It is the impurity or Mala of action. Karma, we know, action. Or it is, we can say it is impurity of karmic conditioning. It is the impurity of action, and it causes us to become attached to our actions and fruits of action. This mala represents the ways in which our past actions and conditioning can limit our present experience and future potential. So we are habituated to it. We are attached to it. We are attached to our past karmic habits. Sometimes those habits are really difficult to let go of. And it manifests in the habitual patterns of behavior, limiting beliefs. You believe in something and it is hard for you to change the belief. So to overcome karmika mala, one must learn to act without attachment to the results of our actions. And we know already how to do it by practicing karma yoga. We studied karma yoga extensively in the first 6 chapters. We all know what karma yoga is. First, we transcend, go beyond the 3 gunas. And then we experience the self as separate from activity. And then we come out and act. And then we are bringing the silence of Atma into action. So then, because you already experience self as separate from activity, the action is not having any effect on the silence of Atma, doesn't produce any impression on your awareness. And so that is how we overcome karmika mala. It can be challenging experience. It can be challenging to overcome karmika mala because it requires us to work through the past conditioning and the patterns of behavior. But this is made easy for us with transcendental meditation, and the Vedic recitations really help a lot, especially with Anava Mala, because of this impurity of ego. This is the ego that we talked a little bit yesterday, the ego that I'm great, the puffed up feeling that, I'm very special, I'm very great. That is that's a kind of ego that the Vedic chanting helps us to get rid of. So I'll stop here and we will begin to read now. We will begin to read from verse 10. First, I will recite the Sanskrit shloka and we'll continue with English. Prayanakale manasachalena bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva bhruvor madhye pranamaveshya samyak satam param purushamupaiti divyam. Prayanakale manasachalena bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva bhruvor madhye pranamaveshya samyak satam param purushamupaiti divyam. At the time of departure, by the steady mind, full with devotion, and also by the strength of yoga, having drawn the life force to the middle of the eyebrows, he reaches that transcendent divine Purusha. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. The state of Purusha described in the previous verse becomes infused in the mind by practice, and the strength of the mind to remain established in that state of the divine glow helps the aspirant to leave the body in a natural way. Otherwise, due to its long association with the body, the mind retains such great affinity for it that it is too great a task and hardship for the inner subtle body to leave the gross abode. When the inner body does not leave the gross body in an unhindered way, it does not naturally go towards the field of higher contentment. Only when the mind is left unstrained does it go to a field of great happiness naturally. It is interesting to note that when the divine glow becomes established in the mind in such a way that at will the mind can become absorbed in it, then at that time all the senses and the prana, intellect, ego, and the entire subjective aspect of the individual becomes concentrated there. That is why at the time of death, says Bhagwan, such a state should be created in the middle of the eyebrows, which is the center nearest to all the centers of perception and which lays open a direct way for the subtle body to pass out of the body through to the higher gate of Sushumna and automatically arrives at the celestial divine Purusha mentioned in the previous verse. Here, Bhagwan uses the expression by the steady mind full with devotion. This is to make it clear that the mind must be in the most natural and unstrained state. Not that the mind should be strained in order to remain steady, but that it should be completely relaxed. In order to gain this completely relaxed state of mind, Bhagwan says that two things are necessary. First, a sense of devotion, and secondly, the strength of remaining united with the divine glow. These are gained through regular practice of transcendental meditation. The power of yoga means the ability of the mind to remain united in the self. A fair degree of this state is reached by a few minutes of daily practice of transcendental meditation, through which the mind effortlessly reaches transcendental consciousness and coming out into the field of relative experience. It remains infused with the essential nature of absolute being. With practice, this infusion becomes more and more intensified. And this is what is called the strength of yoga. The following verse sheds more light on the glory gained by such a departure. Jai Gurudev.
So, we have studied in the previous verse, shloka number 9, what Purusha is. And when this Purusha is infused in the mind by regular practice of TM, it helps the aspirant to lead the body in a natural way. In this shloka, we are learning that the difficult process of dropping the body is made easy. Due to long association with the body, the mind is attached to the body. And leaving it becomes quite hard. We all know when we are attached to something, how hard it is to let go of that. So because you are attached, the mind does not go to the field of higher contentment naturally. So when the divine glow is established in the mind, then the senses and prana, intellect, ego, everything becomes concentrated there. Because it's divine, they are automatically attracted to that state. Then, having drawn the life force to the middle of the eyebrows, prana passes out of the sushumna and arrives at a celestial divine Purusha. And then it is said that it should be done with steady mind, with full devotion. A steady mind and without straining. And here there is one important word, yoga bala. That is power of yoga. It is the ability of the mind to remain united in the self. And this is accomplished with TM. Because we are doing regular TM, that power of yoga will be there. That's why we always keep on emphasizing the regularity in TM. Every day, morning and evening, we are having that experience of yoga. And that gives you the yoga bala. This yoga bala does not come overnight. And that's why we do it regularly, day after day. I'll stop here. We'll continue reading. If there are any questions, we can take a couple of questions.
Jai Gurudev, Hemaji.
Yes, Arjun.
Hemaji, what does it mean to bring your attention in the middle of your eyebrows?
Like, at different times, either in the program or outside, let's say your knee is hurting, your attention goes to the knee, right? So you're taking your attention to the knee. And then with this theory of measurement theory, where the attention goes, it grows. So when you take the attention to the eyebrows, then, you're experiencing the transcendent. Prana goes there, senses and everything, they go there. Senses follow the prana to go there. So you take your attention to the center of the eyebrows. Maria, go ahead.
This is very interesting, this whole field, because it seems like degrees of consciousness, like you were saying yesterday, both consciousness and matter in between, because I feel what we're doing here is analyzing it in a very subtle way, and it's so beautiful, but there's a fine distinction between describing something or prescribing something. And it seems like it's a description of spiritual development rather than a prescription. It's describing the result of our development of consciousness through regular practice of TM. And the prescription comes with practicing TM and listening to Vishnu Sahasranam. But that everything else is just a result of that. And at the same time, I feel I really appreciate the value of knowledge, because that knowledge of knowing what is going to happen and what should ideally happen gives that structuring ability in the mind, because knowledge has that structuring power. And there's one more thing I just wish to say, but I'm always very sensitive about this in describing things in terms of impurities, because as Maharishi says, we always bring the light and don't don't have our attention, as you say, it grows, don't have our attention on the darkness, we bring the light and everything else will spontaneously follow. So yeah, in the beginning of the Gita altogether, it says, do not mistake the path for the goal. So yes, we do appreciate what the goal is, but the path is very different. So I'm a little bit, it's a very delicate area, very delicate.
Yes, it is a delicate area, and there are variations to this also. But we get the description and then we get the prescription also. So like in some of our techniques, we put our attention on some of the different areas of our body. Say like, you know, I don't want to mention the techniques, but we put attention at the heart area. So we consciously, we take our attention to that area because that area is special. That is a chakra. There is a chakra there, Anahata chakra. It is an energy center. And if you don't get that prescription to go to that heart area when you're doing your TM, you don't do it. That's why we have an advanced technique for that. So we can take it as a prescription, as a technique. That is something we are supposed to do when we do TM. So that's the way, you know, I understand it. And there are certain things, what you mentioned, there is description. Subsequently, when we move on, we get to that point of description. So here, prescription and description are combined in the first step. Now, the variation of this is, you may not you, anybody, somebody may not always be conscious when the prana is leaving the body. Some may be in coma. Say somebody who did the sadhana for 30, 40, 50 years. Unfortunately, if he or she is in an accident, they go into coma. And now this person did sadhana for 50 years. Now he's in coma. He's not conscious. He's not able to take his attention to the eyebrows. How sad. What does that mean? What will happen to that person? Because he's not able to follow that prescription of take your attention to the center of the eyebrow. Then that's where the value of yoga bala comes. Yoga bala is the strength of yoga. Because you did your sadhana all these 30, 40 years, God is so kind, he will still take him to his abode. Now, this point comes later on after 2 or 3 shlokas. So we'll talk more about it. So let's take any other questions or move on to reading.
Thank you, Hemaji. I just want to mention again that what you have just said was actually happened to my mother, that she was, when we get to the next chapters.
Right,
yeah, so
right.
It's so beautiful that we can rely on that it's an automatic, spontaneous. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll move on with reading. Yadaksharam veda vido vadanti vishanti yadyatayo vitaragaha yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti tatte padam sangrahena prabhakshye. Yadaksharam veda vido vadanti.
Good morning, dear one.
Vishanti yadyatayo vitaragaha.
Yeah, this afternoon. And that will start at about 4 o'clock. So I think it might be best to...
Yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti tatte padam sangrahena pravakshye. That which the knowers of the Veda call imperishable, that which is entered by the ascetics free from attachment, and desiring which the life of celibacy is lived, that state I shall briefly describe to thee. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. Shri Krishna Bhagwan means that he is now going to reveal to Arjuna the ultimate knowledge of the Veda and the goal for which the greatest pleasures of life are renounced and for which a life of celibacy is lived. This means that Sri Krishna Bhagwan is now going to impart to Arjuna the knowledge that will reveal the highest teachings of the Veda, and which is so valuable that even the greatest pleasures of life can easily be set aside for it, and that even the greatest discipline in the life is worthy of it. Certainly, he does not mean that this great knowledge and practical discipline of life is gained only through asceticism. To probe deeply into the significance of his teaching, it is better to study this verse with a commentary on verse 29 of the previous chapter. The imperishable state of life, according to this present verse, is reached through non-attachment by those who devotedly strive for it. Again, it is reached through the life of celibacy. In both these cases, the energy that otherwise would be dissipated in experiences of the outer world is conserved and transformed into pure consciousness, resulting in the development of the divine intelligence, helpful to cross beyond the veil of Maya and transcend the world of perishable existence. The imperishable state on the physical level has a lot to do with this conservation and transformation of energy. Jai Gurudev, I think it's over,
Yeah,
Himaji.
yes, you're right. So, what happens after one departs in such a way? But, you put your attention in the middle of the eyebrows and all that. We just studied that in the last verse. Then you reach the imperishable Brahman. To this, many ascetics who have freed themselves from attachment aspire. So this word attachment keeps coming, all the time. And they practice, asceticism is sometimes difficult. They subject themselves to some difficult situation. And they give up greatest pleasures of life because the joy they get from reaching Brahman is much superior to the joys of the relative life. So some people are able to do that, others may not be able to do that. But, you take the path that is suitable to you, and then, you reach the goal. So it is up to you what path you want to choose. Some choose, asceticism, and others use, other techniques. Maharishi had given us a lot of techniques, and, sometimes we do have a choice what technique we want to follow. But everybody reaches the goal once they follow Maharishi instruction. So I'll stop here and take any questions. Okay, if no questions, we will move on.
Jai Gurudev, just a little comment there. I'm feeling on a very subtle level the appreciation of Bharat, because me being a Westerner, it takes quite a lot to move into a different kind of consciousness. And I'm feeling from all of you there that collective consciousness is so powerful, and it's moving something beyond my intellect. Thank you.
Yes, Maria, I also feel the same way. Bharat is a different world in itself, you know, and it's great. I'm able to appreciate that more and more, you know, the value of being in the land of Veda. It's a very, very special experience. Arjuna also had the same experience. He said he didn't want to leave India. He was recently in India on pilgrimage, and he had wonderful time. And he said on the last day, he said, I don't want to leave India. So I said, I know what you mean. So it is a very special place. I'm convinced about that, land of Veda. You know, there are certain things that may not be very pleasant, but that doesn't bother me at all. You know, I'm able to look at all the positive side, and that's, you know, a very big help. You just change your, you know, perspective, and it's like turning the light on. It's very simple, just turning that switch on and changing your perspective. That gives you a very great, you know, very pleasant experience. Okay. So,
Also, Hemaji, everything outside of India seems very bland, very, very bland and dull. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So shall we move on to verse 12 and 13? They are taken together. Sarvadvarani samyamya mano hrudi nirudhya cha mudhyadhayatmanah pranam astito yogadharanam omityekaksharam brahma vyaharan mamanusmaran yah prayati tyadandeham sayati paramam gatim. Sarvadvarani samyamya. Mano hrudi nirudhya cha mudhyadhayatmanah pranam astito yogadharanam. Omityekaksharam brahma vyaharan mamanusmaran yah prayati tyajandeham sayati paramam gatim. Having brought under control all the doors of the body, and having confined the mind within the heart, with the life breath held in the head, firm in this state of yoga, reciting the one-syllabled Brahman, dwelling on me. He who departs leaving the body goes to the transcendent goal. Jai Guru.
Shri Krishna Bhagavan in these two verses reveals the step necessary to be taken as preparation to leave the body in order to reach the highest goal. These steps are: bring all the doors of the body under control. Second, confine the mind within the heart. Third, hold the life breath in the head. Fourth, recite Om. Fifth, dwell on the Lord. Sixth, depart, leaving the body. Seventh, reach the transcend, the ultimate goal. The process of leaving the body begins with the prana withdrawing itself from different limbs and organs of the body. In this process, the senses also begin to leave the organs and are taken away by the life energy, prana. As this is the process of the disintegration of the body, it is extremely necessary to prevent the process from being chaotic and undisciplined, so that it takes place in a manner that will maintain the integrity of senses, prana, mind, and soul. Obviously, the first thing necessary is to stop the life breath going out from the body from any opening, and then to start bringing the situation under control. This is why Sri Krishna Bhagavan says that the first thing is to control all doors of the body as they are usually open. As the second step, Sri Krishna Bhagavan suggests to confine the mind within within the heart. These words indicate that one has to be extremely careful that the mind stays within the heart and does not go out. The reason is obvious. Mind and prana are said to be inseparable. Prana follows the mind and vice versa. If the mind is kept centered within the heart, then the currents of prana, leaving different parts of body, are naturally directed towards the heart. And this sets up a control that disciplines the whole process of disintegration. When, in this manner, the life breath begins to be centered within the heart, then, as the third step, Sri Krishna Bhagavan says that one should take it to the head and hold it there. Hold the life breath in the head. The purpose is to open the highest door in the body, the gate of Shushmana, under the pressure of the life force, which opened the astral path to sun and through it to the sphere of Brahmalok, the world of Supreme Being. This path is detailed in verse 24 of this chapter. The path of Sushma gate provides that subtle plane of existence which leads to finer and finer realms of life, arriving at the subtlest strata of existence, the celestial divine field of all light, the field of Purusha. In the absence of entry into the path of Shushma. This is how you say, Himaji?
Yeah,
Shushma.
Sushumna. Right.
Shushma. Okay. The whole body is left to go out through any of the 9 doors of the body and is then left out in correspondingly grosser fields of manifest life to course for contentment and rapid evolution. The fourth step is to recite the pranava Om. When the life breath has been brought to the head, Sri Krishna Bhagavan recommends that one recites Om. Qualifying Om, Sri Krishna Bhagavan says, the one-eyed syllabled Brahman. This is to make clear the manner of repeating Om. A continuous stream of short sounds of Om is to be set forth, and not long drawn out sounds of Om. The purpose of this repetition of Om at that time is to create a calming influence on the dying cells of the body and on the, kindly scroll, and on the, yes, thank you, on the violent nature of prana. When it is setting itself free from long time association with those cells and the entire body. This soothing influence also brings calmness to the violent nature of the life force gathered in the head, because by nature the sound Om produces a very great influence of silence. The physical nature of the energy impulses set forth by the repetition of this syllable is to produce silence and reduce the tendency to activity. This is extremely necessary for the whole subtle body while it is about to leave the body in order to become calm before going out into the unfamiliar realms of existence. This is to help the outgoing soul meet the new situation in a collective and a calm manner. The repetition of Om builds up the momentum of calm for the departing soul. One thing of importance here is that when the momentum of calmness is being created within the head by the physical influence of the chanting of Om, it is necessary to put the mind on the thought of the highest so that the life force while leaving the body is naturally directed towards the highest. It is for this that Sri Krishna Bhagavan suggests dwelling on me while repeating Om. The remembrance of Sri Krishna Bhagavan, here symbolized by Lord Krishna itself, designs and establishes the direction of the march of the soul, while the repetition of Om creates a momentum of peace at the time of departure. The soul departs in peace, directed towards the highest and passing through the path of life, arrives at the supreme celestial goal of eternal fulfillment. Another reason for remembering the Supreme Lord at that time is to prevent the mind from leaning towards passivity under the silencing influence of Om, and to keep it alert on its goal. The higher gate of Sushma, which does not function for any other mundane necessities of life in the world, opens into the plane of the subtlest strata of existence. There exists the most delicate part of the nervous system, which, kindly scroll, which, thank you, which connects the plane of the transcendental absolute consciousness with the relative life. The higher gate of Sushma represents that. That is why it is recommended for the soul to leave the body through that gate, so that being out of the body, it may find itself on the subtle plane of divine intelligence. It should not be lost out of sight that these two verses present the technique at the time of death and not the way to live eternal freedom in God consciousness during life here on earth. The following verse presents the path of living freedom in God consciousness during the life on earth. Thank you. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. I would like to say something at the beginning of the shloka and repeat at the end. So the technique that is described in these two shlokas, this is only for the time of death and not for practice during life. This is a very important point to remember, and I will repeat it at the end of this discussion on these two shlokas. So here, what happens at the time of departure from the body, when the prana is leaving the body, is described. What happens? Here's what, Maria said comes into play. This is the description of what is happening and the different steps to reach the goal are given here. So what happens? First, prana withdraws from the body. This is the process that happens when prana leaves the body. It withdraws from the body, and then the senses follow. Then the second step is to keep the mind in the heart. Then we have been doing it for many years, so it becomes easy. The mind automatically goes to the heart. The third step is to take prana to head. So when the mind is there, prana is there at the heart, they go to the head. And when they go to the head, this opens the gate of Sushumna. So now Sushumna is a nadi, they call it in Sanskrita, is a pathway. And I don't know, if we have some opportunity or situation, we will talk more about Sushumna. But for right now, know that there is a pathway, a nerve pathway that goes from the heart to the head. And the name of that is Sushumna. There is a lot written about that. I hope we have some chance to discuss that. And then, because the prana and mind are going by the path of Sushumna to the head. And this facilitates journey to Brahmaloka. This is important for moksha because this is the plane from where the Sushumna gate opens to Brahmaloka. There are several layers in creation. And Sushumna gate opens into Brahmaloka. And that's why when prana and mind go to the head, to the top of the head, Brahmarandra it is called, Sahasrara chakra is there, another energy center. If prana does not leave from head, then it goes out through any other 9 gates of the body. So what are the other 9 gates of the body? Anybody wants to say? You unmute and you can answer the question. This is a pop quiz. Anybody wants to answer that question? There are 9 other openings in our body. What are they? Anyone wants to say? Yeah?
Yes, they are eyes, ears, nostrils, mouth, and the 2 lower openings of. So these are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and those lower 2 openings.
Yes, you're right. That must be Usha, right?
Yes.
Yes, Usha, you are right. So the 2 lower openings you are mentioning, organs of procreation and excretion. So these are the other 9 openings in the body. So if prana doesn't go through Sushumna to the head, it's going upwards to the head. If it doesn't go that way, then prana may leave from any of the other 9 openings that Usha just mentioned. Then if they leave from any of these other openings, one will not get moksha and one will have rebirth. Because these openings, they go into grosser field of the relative. They take you into the relative world. So that's where the significance of the prana and mind and senses, everything going to the top of the head. So once the prana and mind go to the head, the 4th step that happens is the instruction. Here it is prescriptive. It says, recite pranava. Now, how this is recited? Continuous stream of short sounds and not long drawn out sounds. Like sometimes, when you're saying your mantra in TM mantra in meditation, the mantra is long drawn out. The mantra, it changes, it becomes long. Sometimes it is short, sometimes it is long. So it's not like that long drawn out sound. It is the short sounds, tuck, 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 like that. If your mantra is rose, you go rose, 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 rose. And you don't go rose like that. So the instruction is to recite pranava in continuous stream of short sounds, not long drawn out sound. And then at that point, you are at Brahmarandra, which is at the top of the head, where Sahasrara Chakra is there. And that connects the planes of transcendental absolute consciousness with the relative life. The highest gate of Sushumna represents that one. So again, I want to repeat what Maharishi said in the commentary. This is the technique at the time of death, at the time prana is leaving the body, when you're dropping the body, and not for practice during life. This is extremely important point, and I would like all of you to remember that and not think that, well, I'm getting there, so I better begin to practice repeating pranava like this, short sounds like that. No, we don't think like that. We don't do that. Okay, so I'll stop here and take any questions, please. Go ahead.
Jai Gurudev, Hemaji.
Yep.
Hemaji, I've always associated pranava with Bhagwan Shiv. Is that the right thing to do, or is it
Actually,
not to be associated with Bhagwan Shiv?
It is the symbol of Brahman. And as you know, when you are trying to understand Brahman, Maharishi said, imagine a huge room, huge, so big that it is unimaginable. Then you divide it into 5 parts. And these 5 parts are Ganesha, Shiva, Devi, Surya, and Vishnu. They all are Brahman. See, Brahman is incomprehensible, or at least it seems incomprehensible. But Maharishi is helping us to understand it by, explaining like this. So it's just not for Shiva. For Mother Divine also, they say you are Pranava, like that. Okay. Any other questions?
Can you say those 5 again, Ganeshji?
Ganesh, Shiva, Devi, Surya, Vishnu.
Thank you, Hemaji.
Any other questions?
Jai Gurudev, Hema.
Maria, go ahead.
It's just a beautiful point that you've also brought up here about we would always be speaking about pranava as the sacred syllable. We would never actually say it on Mother Divine. It was always a sacred syllable. And I think I sent you the link for that one YouTube clip on Maharishi speaking about that, and how significant it is not to use that. And exactly what you're saying at the end of that tape, at that interview, he says it's very destructive to break up that sound. And that's the very process now, because that's what one wants. It's disintegration when one is departing. So it assists that. But in life, it is not favorable. So that I wonder if it's appropriate to send in our group that one recording of Maharishi speaking about that.
I have asked that question, and on purpose I'm waiting on it, because this is a sensitive issue. So I have requested our other panel members to let me know if I can put that link in the chapter 8 group, but I didn't hear from them yet. So if they say, okay, I will post it, because, we want to be careful. I especially want to be careful so that I follow all the national and international standards and, say only what we are supposed to say and not more, because, we do have some guidelines for that. So if I get an okay, I will post it. It's a beautiful tape. Otherwise, we will discuss some more about this in our next session, next Saturday. When I recap, I will try to say whatever I'm able to say. There is a lot more knowledge in these subsequent chapters that are coming out. So I'm being, very careful to give the right amount of knowledge. Already I was warned, na buddhi bhedam janayet, ajnanam karma sanginam. So we should give the right level of knowledge. So for that we are striving, and I'm trying to do my best to give the best of what Maharishi had said in these chapters. We are getting a lot already. So if you don't get something, don't be unhappy. When the time comes, everything will fall into place. Every piece of knowledge will come. Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you.
I would like to share one experience of mine.
Yeah.
This is with respect to what was discussed by Maria about being in India and its vibrations. I recall this similar thing. It's not only in India. When I went to Tirupati, Tirumala Hills for TTC, and I had to come to Bangalore because of some emergency in between, I could experience very, very negative vibrations in Bangalore. And it is not that West versus East. Within one city, you have positive and negative vibrations. And at the end of TTC, I became aware of the positive vibrations in temples, in certain homes, in certain places, and of course, wherever there was greenery and a lot of trees and plants, positive vibrations. And other places, one could experience that negativity. And I would experience a terrible itching on my body. So I think India has plenty of positive vibrations, but there are places where there are a lot of negative vibrations also. So I'm not trying.
That's true everywhere. So, we tune into positive vibrations and all the knowledge that Maharishi is giving us. So it helps us immensely. And Maharishi said, ignore all that is not evolutionary, because there are things that are not evolutionary in our surroundings. And then we build up good vibrations and we build up heaven on earth. Heaven on earth does not mean that you create a heaven around you with people or places or anything. Heaven on earth is something you build in your heart. And then wherever you go, you say, I'm in heaven. And so that heaven on earth, you create in your heart and you take it everywhere you go. That's how you create heaven. So there is good and bad everywhere. And we also studied in the last chapter that good and bad, everything comes from God. He made it very clear in 7th chapter. And so that's there. That's how we understand it. If there is some disturbance, something not evolutionary, then, we deal with it, we just ignore it. And then we go towards the evolutionary, activities or thinking or behavior or whatever. Okay, let's move on. We have one more shloka to cover. So I'll do the... Yeah? Did somebody say something?
Hema, there was just one quote of Maharishi exactly of what you're saying. May I just say that now?
Yes, please.
Heaven is transcendental consciousness deep in everyone. Creating heaven on earth is taking that level of consciousness deep in everyone and making it concrete. Thank you.
I said the right thing.
10 out of 10. And thank you, Usha, for your experience.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll move on to the last shloka of today's satsang. Ananyacheta satatam yo mam smarati nityashah tasyaham sulabha partha nityayuktasya yoginah. Ananyacheta satatam. Yo mam smarati nityashaha. Tasyaham sulabha partha. Nityayuktasya yoginaha. He whose mind is never on anything else, he who remembers me day after day, to such a yogi, ever established in me, I am easily attainable. O Partha, Jai Gurudev.
This verse explains the word anusmara, anusmara,
Yep.
anusmara, used previously. The first thing is that one should always remain with his mind, never on anything else, which means he should remain ever awake in himself. To be in this state, what is necessary is to awaken the deeper levels of consciousness and succeed in enlivening the deepest levels of awareness, and let the mind be in the state of pure awareness, awaken itself in spite of any activity, and in this state only, pure consciousness is not overshadowed by any experience or activity in life. In this manner, a state is attained in which consciousness is not on anything else other than its own self, even when the mind and the senses are engaged in their activities. Thank you, Arjun. The second thing to be done is to remember Him day after day, established in the divine glory of the self. When one remembers God on the conscious level, one becomes ever more established in God, one's inside and outside, both in tune with the awareness of God. No wonder Shri Krishna Bhagavan expresses that for such an accomplished yogi, he, the omnipresent, is easily automatically attainable. This verse has long been interpreted to give the meaning that to make God easy of attainment, it is necessary to remember Him always without thinking of anything else. Such a meaning only touches the surface of the great teaching of this verse and leaves the aspirant on a superficial level of remembrance of God. Remembers me day after day is a clear expression to indicate that the process of remembrance has to be undertaken by the aspirant for some time every day. It will, however, be wrong to conclude that from this that remembrance has to be continued throughout the day. Any attempt to continuously maintain the remembrance of God on the conscious thinking level will obstruct the engagement of the mind in daily work and will result in inefficiency in practical way by creating habit of dividing the mind. Many commentators on this verse have used the word always with remembers me day after day, and they have translated this verse in the sense of constantly remembering me. The constantly remembering God is an impractical proposition for any man in the world. God consciousness or deep fixity of mind in Godhead is certainly possible and easy for every man. But remembering is not possible continuously and always. Therefore, it is logical that the sense of remembering should be restricted to words day after day, not with the word always. Therefore, he who remembers me day after day means remembering God for some time every day. Thank you. It should be understood that when an ordinary, undeveloped, uncultured mind thinks of something, only the surface of the ocean of his mind functions. This activity of the conscious mind makes the use of a very small amount of unlimited mental potential in man. The practice of transcendental meditation activates the deeper levels of consciousness. Having cultivated a state of inner awareness, the deepest level of consciousness remains lit up by the divine, and the natural reflection of it is always found on the conscious level. It is the natural outflow of the inner God consciousness that is thus found on the conscious level of life without trying to remember God. In this way alone, it is possible for the mind to be always and constantly held in the fast grip of God consciousness, irrespective of any activity and experience on the level of mind and senses. It is not that the mind holds God out of the effort, but that a situation is created so that God consciousness grips the mind for all the times. Jai Gurudev.
Okay, there are some very interesting points in this shloka. So I will quickly make those points. This verse is giving us the reassurance that God is attainable easily for those that are intent on practice of transcending. As we have already seen in verse 7, when we talked about Anusmara. So to refresh that verse, let us see how to do that. Oh, before I forget, we may run out of time because we are coming close to the end. I did get a reply from Brahmachari Girish Momayaji, and this is what he said. I want to read it now. He said, Hemaji, the knowledge is all good, but the problem is that movement has issued notices to this person for uploading videos illegally. So there is problem in using it officially. You can explain the knowledge in your own words and say that Maharishi has explained it like this. So I will do that in our next session. So I will not be posting that link because we want to work with international and I don't want to do anything that is illegal. Okay. So
Thank you, Hema.
yeah. So we studied about Anusmara, and quickly to review that, first we do TM, then we transcend, then we come out into activity. So when you come out, you're staying awake in the light of pure consciousness in spite of any activity. And this pure consciousness is not overshadowed by any activity. So then you're not consciousness, your consciousness is not anything else other than Atma. Even when the mind and senses are engaged in activity, you are experiencing the silence of Atma. This is what is meant by the phrase, whose mind is never on anything else. That's the way to do it. And not try to keep thinking, let's say you are cooking and some movie songs come to your mind and then you say, no, I should not be singing movie song. I should be thinking of Krishna. It's not like that. This means that we remember God for some time daily. It doesn't mean that we should try to remember throughout the day. So with the above two steps, the mind is constantly held in the grip of God consciousness. It's not that the mind holds God out of effort. You know, effort is always difficult. We are trying to do something, but a situation is created so that God consciousness grips the mind for all time. This is a very, very beautiful point. Now, I'll give you an example that will help us to understand this even better. There is something called as Markata Marjala Nyaya, in Sanskrit literature. Nyaya means principle, a law. So this says that there are two types of spiritual aspirants based on their approach. One is monkey principle and the other is kitten principle. Monkey principle, that is Markata Nyaya, is when baby monkeys clutch their mother so tight that they won't fall even when the mother monkey is jumping from tree to tree. If the baby monkey does not hold firmly, it will fall down. And so the entire responsibility is of the baby monkey to hold on to the mother tight. Mother has no responsibility. It just jumps from tree to tree. So that is the monkey principle, Markata Nyaya. But, you know, in the kitten principle, that is Marjala Nyaya, the kittens are carried by the mother. Mother cat holds the kitten firmly. Kitten doesn't have to do anything. It is mother's responsibility. Kittens have no responsibility at all. Mother is holding. So, mother cat assumes all the responsibility. Entire responsibility is, so just like that, similarly, entire responsibility is taken up by Bhagwan himself. They have achieved such a level of sadhana that Sri Krishna Bhagwan does not want to miss them. So he takes the responsibility for his bhaktas. Now, this is what we read in the last sentence of this verse. It is so beautiful. I want to read it again. The 14th shloka, the last sentence, it says, it's not that the mind holds God out of effort, but that a situation is created so that God consciousness grips the mind for all time. So God will come forward and hold on to us. And again, in the example of somebody going into coma, God comes forward and takes them to him out of his compassion. So that is the end of it. It is time to stop. Sorry, no time for questions or comments, but we will take questions or comments in the beginning of our next session. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes, thank you, Hema.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Hemaji.
Yes.
You're welcome. Let's all come on the cameras. I want to say Jai Gurudev. You all will say Jai Gurudev to Maharishi for giving us this beautiful knowledge. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. Oh, Brenda, so nice to see you. And Koafa Chinji is there. Very nice. Meenakshi Jai Gurudev. Kanaka Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.
Asanta Didi is not coming on
Jai
camera. Jai
Gurudev. Jai
Gurudev Didi,
Gurudev.
so nice to have you. Meenakshi is there.
Jai
Daveji,
Gurudev.
Ramesh, I think it's the Anamika and Revati, Maria. Thank you all for joining.
Jai
Such a
Gurudev.
joy. Jai
Jai
Gurudev. Jai Gurudev, Meenakshi. Are you enjoying the session?
Jai Gurudev. Jai Gurudev. Thank you,
Jai
ma'am.
Gurudev, Hemaji.
Jai Gurudev, Anita ji. Thank you so much for reading. Okay, so we'll
Jai
start.
Gurudev, Hemaji.
Jai Gurudev, Jai Shri. If I miss anybody, don't mind.
It's okay. It's okay.
I'm trying to say, greet everybody by the name. Okay, so Arjun, please go ahead and say Samaveda. Jai Gurudev to all. We'll meet next Saturday, 7:30 p.m. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.
विष्णु त्रैधा